Hello everybody, Demon Red Mist here. I just need to do a quick audio test. Just need to make sure that my microphone is picking up. Wait a sec. Okay, yeah, that's working. Right, okay, so I am on GT Sport for a guide for the Barcelona circuit, or Catalunya, or Lunicats as Dave likes to call it, for the Dynamic GT League Race 8, which is on Thursday, so in about 4 or 5 days' time. Right, okay, I did a bit of practice around here yesterday, so I've kind of got myself a semi-decent setup, or what I feel is a semi-decent setup. However, I know I've mentioned in a couple of previous locations that you're going to have to drive, well, if you try racing, how you can do qualifying laps, your tyres are not going to last more than a lap. So I am going to have to kind of try and show quali versus race time, but we'll see how I go on. I'm not going to go too much into detail of corner on corner because I have done a guide around this track before, and as I mentioned some time ago, for a lot of the tracks the guide is actually very, very similar. It's just the speeds of the cars that change, or perhaps the braking points do change slightly. But for the actual positioning of the car, exactly the same. Okay, so I will quickly show the setup that I am running at the moment. This may change by the time I get to race day, but at the moment I have no plan on changing it. Only change to the suspension is the natural frequency. Downforce is, as you can see it there, and here are the gears that I'm running at the moment. Now I have tweaked about with the gears a little bit. I've possibly not finished tweaking with the gears, but as far as first, second and third go, they're finished, and that's because second and third gear are set for third gear for turn 1, 2 and 3, second gear for turn 4, turn 5, the hairpin, loopy right-hander towards the end, and the final sector. And I will try and point out a couple of things there. Now, I haven't done any laps today, so this might get a little bit tricky. I might need a little bit of a warm-up. So what I'm going to do as I do an out lap, I will try and mention things that differ slightly, or point things out as I do a bit of a slow out. Okay, so turn 1. For me personally, turn 1, the braking point is a couple of car lengths before the service road on the left hand side. So just after the 100 metres, but before this service road here. If you break out the service road, you lose time all the way through turns 1, 2 and 3. Here I also tried to stay off the throttle until I have got up to this miniature sausage curb. Now I can be back on the throttle, and the idea is that once I am on the throttle there in turn 1, I do not have to lift it off again all the way through these corners. Position yourself slightly left on entry to this corner to open it up so you don't have to steer as much. Also around this corner, if you find that you're understeering around this corner, if you steer more, you'll understeer more. It's not easy to do, but if you're understeering around here, little lift, come off the steering, let the fronts grip up, and then you can steer again. It's the only way to work. Okay. Turn 4, braking point is before the bridge. If you break out the bridge, you're going to lose time in this corner, potentially go deep. A couple of car lengths before the bridge. This, I would say, is pretty much on the limit. Personally, I'm taking this corner in second gear because it aids for better turn in. and once I have turned in, I can be quite aggressive on the throttle. If you're spinning out here, make sure you haven't got the steering wheel turned too much as you accelerate. Brake early at the top of this hill, and make sure you stay on the brakes to slow it down, get a late apex to be able to get on the power nice and early and very hard. A fast left-right chicane, brake at the start of the curb, don't have to brake heavy. Personally, third gear, can clip the apex, now we're absolutely flat out. This corner in qualifying mode, flat out, no lift, balls deep, go for it, right? In the race, a little lift before you turn in here will give your tyres extra life, okay? Don't have to brake, just a tiny little lift, and it'll help. Down here, me personally, the tyre marks that are right in front of my car now, next to the marshal's light post on the right hand side, is about my braking point. So this change of tarmac here, and I'll try and show you, the marshal's light post is just under my name. So this is the braking point I'm using. It's about 125 meters. We're hard on the brakes but working our way off the brakes once we've got under the bridge. Personally, it's a first gear corner on the way in. Try not to take any of the apex curb. Come out of the corner in first gear but short shift to second and straighten that wheel so you can floor it. Up to third gear, gentle brake down to second, and this corner for me is a crucial one. Don't be too aggressive on the throttle too soon, but you can get greedy on the throttle on the way out. Just make sure you don't steer too much. Don't brake late for this corner. Ideally clip the apex curb on the right hand side. Now I've got my car set up so that I can stay in second gear here, so I don't have to change up to third to the brake and come down. So that's why my second gear is the way it is, and you will find it a lot easier to do it this way, by the way, guys. So you can come around this corner in second gear, accelerating, brake under the bridge. Don't have to go down to first, but brake under the bridge, and then we can clip the apex on the left, and then preferably straddle this curb. If you can straddle this curb, it's the much faster way. It does come with a risk, because if your tyres touch that curb, you're going to bounce. You could play the safer route and just go for clipping the apex. There's nothing wrong with that, but when you do get on the throttle, be very, very careful of how much steering angle you've got applied. Okay, tyres are a little bit cold, but we'll see how we get on. So I'm going to try and drive in a sort of qualifying sense, so a little bit aggressive here. So as I mentioned, braking before the service road, down to third. Oh, tyres are too cold. Right, I'll tell you what, let me jump to the pits and get a fresh set of tyres, because with the tyres being cold and a slide like that, it's just going to hurt. Okay, now I would suggest when it comes to qualifying, if you push on the out lap, you may find you haven't got the tyres for your qualifying lap, but at the same time, if you go too slow, they'll be too cold. Also, be careful on the exit of the pits. It's very easy to spin the car through turns 1 and 2. One of the tricks to this left-right down here is to take this first part and then try and get the steering wheel as straight as possible here, so you're actually not steering through that right-hand section, you're actually going straight. Clipping the apex curve there does help. It helps pull the car around the corner. But what I will say is that corner we've just been around, that's turn 9. If you have not been able to go around that corner flat out, if you need help, ask, because if you're not doing it and others are, you may end up getting rammed, and it wouldn't necessarily be the car behind's fault. It is a flat out corner. Okay, be careful of those sausage curbs there. Right, let's see how we get on this time. one of the tricks to turns 1, 2 and 3 is to try and be as smooth as possible with your steering. Patient with the throttle, mini sausage curve, now I'm on the throttle and we don't lift it off. Move left a little bit to make this corner easier. Even though I'm running wide, I'm not going to steer more because I'll just get more understeer. Brake before the bridge. We can get early on the power, just be careful of how much you're steering. Brake on the top of the hill. Stay on the brakes, otherwise you don't slow down enough. Tuck in late apex, now we can be absolutely flat out. Don't have to brake hard here. Just need to brake enough to get it down to third. Might run a little wide, but because the steering wheel's straighter, we're okay. Flat out. You do have to steer a lot, but once you've done it once, you won't want to do it any other way. Try not to take too much curb, short shift to second, third, gentle brakes down to second, wait for the mini sausage curve, that's your sign to speed up. Brake at the bridge, straddle curve, floor it. I will try and go again. So that's a 136.6, which isn't too bad really. Yeah, the mini sausage curves I do like to use as markers. Brakes a bit late marker, could be on the throttle, stay full throttle. Right, move left a little bit. You can ease the steering off a little bit, even though we're running wide, that's fine, we can still let off the steering. You can, if you want, use the curve here, but it can make the braking a little bit unstable. Short shift into third on this occasion, but absolutely flat out, making sure I'm not steering too much. Late apex, early on the throttle, and letting that steering off little bit by little bit as I'm going full throttle. Okay, the end of the curve is where we turn in. Brake on the marks. Okay, look for the mini sausage curve on the right. That's our sign to get back on the power. There we are. Careful of the steering though. Okay, now there we go. Now, given that this is the second lap, that was the second lap, 36.1, not bad. If I was to continue on now, pushing as hard as I could, right, then turn 9, all of a sudden, is no longer flat out in a race situation. Because as the tyres wear, they lose that little bit of grip. Now you may think, oh, we'll just stick a bit more front wing on, you'll be fine. You won't. What you'll end up doing is losing the rear end. The front end will just cause you to spin more. What you're better off doing is, in a qualifying situation, take turn 9 at flat out. But in a race situation, especially if you've got cars ahead of you, do not take it flat out. If you've got cars ahead of you, if they lift and you don't, you might hit them. But also, you're going to have dirty air. So if you're going flat out, get the dirty air, and then run wide, you end up in the gravel. And you don't want to end up in the gravel, or even worse, dipping a wheel in the gravel, and then spinning and hitting the wall on the right-hand side. Whereas, you could do the tiniest of lifts, and I do mean tiniest of lifts, saving your tyres and avoiding any chance of going off. And now that I've said that, I'll go off. Tiniest little lift, then I'm flat out again, but that little lift just allows me to get the turn in, then I know I'm making the corner. And if I do that, or if you do that in a race situation, it will save your tyres. Okay, so I'll do a couple of laps here now, sort of trying to do it in a race style. But you'll have noticed here as well, because I'm not changing up into third gear here, it is making these corners oh so simple. And on this next lap I will show you what happens if you do brake after the bridge. It's not a bridge, after the advertisement hoarding. Okay, so race situation, heading down to turn 1, there is 0 point braking as late as physically possible down here. You're much better off braking that a little bit sooner, making sure you hit that apex, making sure you're not sliding if need be, tiniest little lifts just to get the turn-in done, to minimise how much steering angle you're having to put on. Here, don't brake late, don't need to rush the downshifts either. And again here, don't brake late, there's no point, there's nothing to gain from it. Okay, we could take this flat out, but we don't need to. We need to look after the tyres. We can comfortably take it at that speed, and if you are following a car, you're going to get the slipstream. Nice early short shift, avoiding all loss of traction. And here, again, I can do a short shift just to look after those tyres. I'm going to brake after the bridge, and that's what happens. I've had to go down to first gear, otherwise I'm not getting back onto the track effectively. So just braking those couple of meters later ruins the whole corner. Might as well just brake that a little bit sooner and be comfortable and quicker through those corners. Okay, so that was a 37.3, but that was with an awful final chicane, as I'm sure you can agree. I'm going to do the gentlest of lifts here, and when I say lifts, I mean feel free to rewind and have a look at my throttle input on the right hand side here, just to see how little those lifts are. Now, even if I was leading the race, I would still lift through turn 9 to look after the tyres. Even though I took a little bit too much curb, it's still a comfortable corner. If I was flat out, it wouldn't be as comfortable, but not only that, I would be hurting the tyres more. Yes, it is a little bit slower, but in the long run, it's faster over the course of your stint. Now, one thing I will say as well, if you haven't practiced pit entry here, make sure you do, because if you haven't practiced it, good chance you might hit the pit wall. Okay, so that's a 37.3 and a 37.4, so that's fairly consistent lap times by looking after the tyres. So what I'm going to try and do now is effectively do a qualifying lap on these tyres that have now got a little bit of extra wear. I might still be able to do it just, but it is going to be a little more tricky, and if I tried to follow it up with another one, well, we might have to see what happens. Oh, not quite got the grip, can't get to the apex. Okay, so I'm not going to lift this time up here, unless I think I'm going off. It's going wide. Oh, I had to do a tiny little lift on the exit of the corner, and that's more costly than doing the lift on the way into the corner. can definitely feel that there is nowhere near as much grip in these tyres now. And okay, it's a 1:36.3. It is a way off my PB time, but that was right on the edge, and I couldn't take turn 9 flat out. I had to stay on the brakes a little bit longer there. The apex this time, but that's because I've compensated for the lack of grip, so I've braked a touch earlier. Don't want to turn in. That might make... Ooh, shit. So compared to doing a little lift on the way in, that was a lot more risky. And every sort of bit of sideways motion in the car, especially around this track, is going to hurt the tyres. So you compare that turn 9 just then to the turn 9 when I was doing a tiny little lift on the way in. It was a comfortable corner. I could take it like that all day, all night, all morning. Okay, maybe not that long, but I'd be happy to take it in that way all the time. Whereas to try and take it flat out, I don't know if on the next lap it's going to be able to cope, or if the lap after. And look at the lap time. I'm pushing, but it was a 37.3. Braked a little bit earlier this time, and still barely making the corner. Now I want to try and induce understeer here, but I don't. My car settle's too good. I was hoping to try and show what I was on about. If you do get understeer there, how turning more isn't going to help you. I might be able to show it in a different corner if it happens. I'm struggling to get anywhere near the apexes now. Okay, I'm going to do a little lift on this one. So a tiny little lift, and much more composed and comfortable. I know exactly what the car's going to do there. The front end has just not got the grip anymore because I pushed it on those first 2 laps. So those first 2 laps of not bad lap times are now costing me here with what was going to be much slower lap times, because I just haven't got the front end grip. And what you'll probably find is, as you practice, if you push the tyres a little bit, I mean, look at that, it's a 138.5. So if you kind of push the tyres as much as I did there, all of a sudden you're struggling to make it into the apex of a corner. So you then try steering more. What it effectively does is gives you a little bit of understeer, but also because you're steering so much when you're trying to get on the power, you lose the rear end. Then makes you think, oh well, I'm understeering and oversteering. Well, actually, no, your tyres can't cope with how much you're asking them to do. But that turn 9, I showed then that it can be done flat out, but it's going to hurt you. You're much better off lifting in the race situation, lifting through that corner, because then you know exactly what it's going to do every single lap. Because if you go flat out every time, it's going to hurt the tyres, and on one of those laps, it's going to bite you. Okay, is there anything else that I need to show about this track? Not really, other than, like I said, make sure you check the pit entry, because it can be a little bit difficult. And one thing I will say, guys, for any of the DGT drivers that watch this, if you do want to get into the pits, make sure there is not a car on your right hand side when you go for the pit lane. If there is a car there, don't go for the pit lane, because you're just going to cause a crash, and it won't be the other person's fault. Okay, right, that's this one done. I'm going to bugger off so I can go and watch FP3 and qualifying from the Formula 1 today, because I have not seen them yet. So have a good weekend, everybody, and I shall see you all in a bit.